Good morning and welcome back, students. Before beginning this lecture, first of all, happy Eid to everyone. Hope you are enjoying this festival safely. This is the last part of genetics, and we are going to end the genetics topic by reading about the single gene disorders with a non-classical pattern of inheritance. So in the first lecture, we had already discussed about the single gene disorders which were following your classical pattern or the Mendelian pattern of inheritance. Today we are discussing about the single gene disorders which are not following the classical Mendelian pattern of inheritance. There are four important groups of disorders under this category. Diseases which are caused by trinucleotide repeat mutation, disease caused by mutations in mitochondrial genes, diseases which are associated with genomic imprinting, and lastly the diseases associated with gonadal mosaicism. So although these topics are very easy, but it demands a little bit of your attention. Okay, so without wasting any time, let us begin. First we are going to discuss about the trinucleotide repeat mutations. Okay, so basically these are disorders which are associated with expansion of the trinucleotide repeat sequences, and they are mostly neurodegenerative in nature. What do you mean by expansion of trinucleotide repeat? So for example, if we are having a DNA strand, we are having different types of bases, DNA bases like adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymidine. Okay, so for example, if a triplet of sequences, for example cytosine, guanine, CGG, if this particular sequence repeats itself again, for example CGG, if there is multiple repeats of these sequences, okay, then we call it as a trinucleotide repeat sequence. Okay, and this excessive repeat of these sequences, of any sequence for that matter, leads to certain disorders which are neurodegenerative, means they are involving the central nervous system. These repeats, it may involve both coding as well as non-coding regions of the DNA. And remember that most of the trinucleotide repeats, so out of the three base pairs, okay, two of the most common are guanine and cytosine. Okay, so these two will be present everywhere. Okay, so let us see the disorders. So trinucleotide repeat sequences, okay, which are involved, okay, it can involve, so this kind of repetition can involve either the non-coding region, okay, or it can involve the coding region. So when the trinucleotide repeat sequences are involving the non-coding region, usually the expansion is occurring during oogenesis, during the formation of the ovum, whereas that which is involving the coding region, okay, here the expansions are occurring during spermatogenesis. Okay, so let us see what are the examples of trinucleotide repeat disorders which are involving the non-coding region of the DNA. So here we are having Fragile X syndrome. So it is involving the chromosome X. Which gene is involved? FMR1 gene is involved, and which DNA bases are repeated? It is the CGG repeat, cytosine, guanine repeat. So there are multiple CGG repeats. Okay, this is the Fragile X syndrome, and it is also the prototypical, or it is the most important, or it is the most important disorder, okay, which we are going to read about under trinucleotide repeat mutation. Second example is Friedreich ataxia. Here it is the chromosome number 9 which is involving the frataxin gene, and there is GAA repeat, guanine, adenine repeat. Then we are having myotonic dystrophy. Here the chromosome number 19 is involving the DMPK gene, and here there is a CTG repeats. Now let us look at the examples in the coding region. So trinucleotide repeat sequences in the coding or involving the coding region, number 1 is the Huntington's disease. So here the chromosome 4 is involved, HTT gene is involved, and the repeats in all of these are CAG repeats, that is cytosine, adenine, guanine repeats. Okay, in case now other example is spinobulbar muscular atrophy, also called as Kennedy's disease. Here again there is CAG repeats. In spinocerebellar ataxia, also called as Mercado-Joseph disease, here again we are having CAG repeats, and we are having dentatorubral pallidoluysian atrophy, also called as Horriver's disease. They are having CAG repeats, not CGG. It is by mistake, it is CAG repeat. So all the trinucleotide repeat sequences which are involving the coding region, the classical repeats are CAG repeats, not CGG. It is CAG repeats. Okay, there is an error over here. The last example, the Horriver's disease, it will be CAG repeats. Okay, So what is the mechanism? Okay, remember these unstable repeats, that is the trinucleotide repeats, they cause disease by three mechanisms. The number one mechanism, either because of the excessive repeat, there will be a loss of function of the affected gene caused by transcriptional silencing. The example is Fragile X syndrome. What is transcriptional silencing? That during the transcription of the DNA, they encounter certain codons, or there is certain things happening. For example, there is hypermethylation which is taking place. That is, certain epigenetic silencing is there, because of which the DNA transcription never occurs. There is a silencing of the transcription process. So because of that, there is a loss of function of the affected gene, and the typical example of this mechanism is Fragile X syndrome. Sometimes because of the trinucleotide repeat, there might be a toxic gain of function. How? By alteration of a protein structure. The classical example over here is Huntington's disease and spinocerebellar ataxia. And thirdly, sometimes in case of Fragile X syndrome, you are having a toxic gain of function mediated by an mRNA. This is a variant of Fragile X syndrome called as Fragile X tremor ataxia syndrome. So these are the three important mechanisms by which the trinucleotide repeats will cause disease. Now, when the expansions are occurring in the coding region, especially we are talking about the coding region. As we all remember, during the coding region, typically there is the expansion of the CAG repeats or CAG nucleotides, okay? That is cytosine, adenine, guanine trinucleotides are getting repeated. Now, such kind of repeat is going to cause production of excessive amount of polyglutamine tracts, leading to polyglutamine disease, and this is characterized by a progressive neurodegeneration in midlife. Along with that, there is a toxic gain of function leading to abnormal protein synthesis, and such abnormal proteins, when they tend to aggregate, they are going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, apoptosis, UPR stress response, if you remember, okay, and large intranuclear inclusions, okay, which is the morphological hallmark of such a disease. And all these things will trigger apoptosis and death of those cells, especially the death of the neurons, leading to neurodegeneration. So expansion in the non-coding regions, they suppress the synthesis of affected protein. So this is how the expansions in the coding and the non-coding region, they cause disease. Now, first we are going to discuss the prototype disease, okay, which is showing that trinucleotide repeats are the most important disorder. Most commonly encountered trinucleotide repeat disorder is the Fragile X syndrome. It is the prototype of the disease which is showing long trinucleotide repeat. It is also the second most common genetic cause of mental retardation after Down syndrome, and it is occurring due to trinucleotide mutations in the familial mental retardation gene, also called as the FMR gene, which is located in the chromosome X, as we have already seen, and it is present in the long arm of X, XQ.27.3. I hope you understand what is the region, what is the band. Now, this disorder is called as fragile because the cytogenetic abnormality appears as a constriction in the long arm of the X chromosome. It seems as the chromosome has been broken at one point, okay, under cytogenetics, okay. So this constriction appears as a discontinuity of the chromosome staining in cells grown in the folate deficient medium. So basically it is seen as a discontinuity. So when you are observing, when you are examining them under the microscope, okay, this X chromosome, you will see that in the long arm of X, in the region 27 and in the band 3, you will see that there is some kind of constriction. It seems as if the chromosome has been broken at that point. That is why the name of the disease became Fragile X syndrome. That is, the X is fragile. Okay. So we have to understand, as I told you, in all these disorders, there are certain repeats of the nucleotides. So in the normal population, if you see, we are seeing number of CGG repeats in the normal population is very small. So in a normal population like you and me, we are going to see approximately 6 to 55 repeats, and this is normal. This is the normal amount of CGG repeats which we see in the FMR gene. Okay. The second condition is pre-mutation. These are carrier, these are silent carriers, the carrier males and the carrier females. Yes, I am saying carrier males. Usually carrier males never occur in Mendelian disorder. More about this I will discuss later on in the video. In people who are silently carrying the disease, that is the carrier males and females, the number of CGG repeats are 55 to 200. Okay, whereas in the affected individuals, okay, those people who are showing the disease, in those people the number of repeats are 200 to 4000 CGG repeats. Okay, so this is the meaning, this is the number of CGG repeats we see. Okay, in the clinically silent people there are 55 to 200, and those people who are having the disease, they are having more than 200 repeats. Now the most distinctive feature of Fragile X syndrome is macroorchidism, which is present in 90% of the post-pubertal males. Now going further, as with any X-linked disease, we are going to see that Fragile X syndrome is affecting the males. But unlike the X-linked disease, the Fragile X syndrome has several different kinds of pedigree. In short, I am going to discuss that how the Fragile X syndrome is not following the Mendelian pattern of inheritance. In this Fragile X syndrome, there is existence of carrier males. So as we have read about the X-linked disorders, okay, we saw that there is carrier females, but we have never seen the concept of carrier males in Mendelian disorder. So this is one thing which is separating it from Mendelian disorder. So the existence of a carrier males means that they are normally transmitting male. 20% of the males are known to carry Fragile X mutation, are clinically normal. So they are having the mutation, but they are yet not suffering from the disease. So 20% of the males are known to be normally transmitting males, and these carrier males are called as pre-mutations. Okay, pre-mutations. So here comes the concept of carrier males only existing in trinucleotide repeat disorder, example Fragile X syndrome. The second concept is affected carrier female. So again, in case of X-linked disorders, we read that the carrier females are always normal. They are always phenotypically normal because one X is always compensating. But in case of trinucleotide repeat disorder in Fragile X syndrome, we are having affected carrier females. Okay, 30 to 50% of the carrier females are affected and they show mental retardation. So again, they are not following the Mendel's pattern of inheritance. Mendel's X-linked inheritance doesn't show affected carrier females. Always there is normal carrier females in Mendelian disorder. But in case of trinucleotide repeat sequence, we are having affected carrier females. The third important thing is the risk of phenotypic effect. It depends on the position of the individual in the pedigree. I am not talking about happening of the disease. I am talking about the risk of the disease. I am not talking about the severity of the disease. Means what is the risk? What is the chances that a particular individual will be affected by the disease? It increases as you go towards, as you change the generations. For example, if I am suffering from Fragile X syndrome, okay, my brother will be having just 9% chance of getting the disease, but my grandchildren, okay, they will be having 40% risk of having the disease. Okay, that is the meaning of risk of phenotypic effect. So as you go forward with the generation, the risk of suffering from this disorder is going to increase. So the risk of phenotypic effect decreases down the pedigree chart. And the third thing is anticipation. It means the severity of the disease. Okay, and the concept of anticipation is for trinucleotide repeat disorders. Example is Fragile X syndrome. What it is saying that with successive generation, the severity of disorder will become very high. It is not the chance of having the disease. For example, in this generation, in my generation, I am affected, I am having mental retardation. For example, that is mild mental retardation. My children will be having moderate mental retardation, and my grandchildren will be having severe mental retardation. This is called as anticipation. So anticipation is a feature of Fragile X syndrome. I hope these are the important points that differentiate the Fragile X syndrome from X-linked disorder, that is the Mendelian disorder. Okay, now again, one very important concept I want to tell you, or I want to make you understand. As I have already told you, carrier males and carrier females, okay, they are called as pre-mutation. That is, they are carrying 55 to 200 CGG repeats. Both of them, they are normal. They are not expressing the disease over here. When a carrier male, okay, when he is transmitting the disease to his son or to its progeny via spermatogenesis, there is very small changes in the repeat number. For example, this carrier male is having 55 mutation. He will transmit, for example, when he transmits the disease to the progeny, maybe his child is going to have approximately 80 to 90 repeats. So there was a very small change in the repeat number, and there was not, it wasn't very significant. But when a carrier female, for example, the carrier female is carrying 55, when she is transmitting it to its progeny, there is a very high number of repeats. That 55 is becoming 500, or that 55 is becoming 300, 400, like that. So the change from one generation to another is very high when it is going from a carrier female to its progeny. So it is enough to convert a pre-mutation to a full mutation. So most of the children, okay, from the carrier female, they are having mental retardation in most male child, and mental retardation is occurring in 50% of the female offspring, which is again very high. So the basic concept is the carrier females, both males, carrier males and carrier females, can transmit the disease, but the carrier females are a much higher risk factor for transmitting the disease as compared to the carrier males. Okay. Therefore, we conclude that during oogenesis and not spermatogenesis, the pre-mutations are converted into full mutation. So in short, we are saying the pre-mutation will become full mutation and express the disease during oogenesis and not during spermatogenesis. So the molecular basis of Fragile X syndrome, it occurs due to loss of the function of FMR protein, which is a cytoplasmic protein and which is abundantly found in the brain and the testes. That is the reason that the patient is presenting with macroorchidism and with neurodegeneration. Inside the brain, what is the function of this protein? It is basically acting by inhibiting certain protein synthesis and maintaining the normal synaptic activity within the brain. This is what is the function of this FMR protein inside the brain. Secondly, it is helping in certain intracellular transport within the brain. So this is the normal function of the FMR protein. Okay. So with the Fragile X syndrome, this function is lost, and then there is a mental retardation which is happening. So clinically, the affected male, okay, they are having a mental retardation with an IQ of 20 to 60. They are having a long face with large mandible, large everted ears, large testicles, macroorchidism is there, with hyperextensible joints and high arched palate and mitral valve prolapse. So these are the clinical features of patients suffering from Fragile X syndrome. Now we will discuss about a variant of Fragile X syndrome called as the Fragile X tremor or ataxia syndrome. So what is happening again over here? We are having the CGG pre-mutations that is there. So the CGG pre-mutations in FMR gene, it causes a disease that is phenotypically different from the Fragile X syndrome through a distinct mechanism called involving a toxic gain of function. So in case of Fragile X syndrome, we were having loss of function mutation, but in case of Fragile X tremor or ataxia syndrome, we are having a toxic gain of function. Even the clinical features of this particular syndrome is a little bit different from Fragile X syndrome. Over here, the patients are phenotypically different. They are having some kind of tremors, Parkinsonism like feature is there. So over here, the pre-mutation, that is the carrier females and the carrier males, around 20%, okay, carrier females, they are having premature ovarian failure before the age of 40 years. And in the carrier males, okay, more than 50% are exhibiting progressive neurodegenerative syndrome. So what is this neurodegenerative syndrome? Let us see. This syndrome is called as the Fragile X tremor or ataxia syndrome, and in this classical syndrome, the patients are having few features like Parkinson's disease, like intentional tremors, cerebellar ataxia, and progress to Parkinsonism. So with this, we have completed the trinucleotide repeat disorders, and now we are going to discuss the second single gene disorders which is not following the Mendelian pattern of inheritance, called as mutations in the mitochondrial genes. Okay, so let us first understand about mitochondrial inheritance. What is it? Remember, the unique feature of the mitochondrial DNA is maternal inheritance. Remember, all the mitochondria that me and you are having is derived from our mothers and not father. Remember this particular point. So the unique feature of the mitochondrial inheritance is maternal inheritance. Why? Since the ova is containing multiple mitochondria, whereas the spermatozoa is containing few. Very simple. So when a zygote is getting formed, Okay, most of the mitochondria is derived from the ova. It is having multiple amount of mitochondria as compared to the sperm. So majority of the mitochondria that we are having, it is coming from the mother. Therefore, the mitochondrial content of the zygote derived almost entirely from the ovum. Therefore, the mothers are transmitting the mitochondrial DNA to all their children, both male and female. However, the affected male does not transmit the disease to their progeny. Okay, remember, mitochondrial DNA is having around 37 genes. Out of that, 22 are transfer RNAs, 2 are ribosomal RNAs, 13 genes are basically encoding proteins involved in oxidative phosphorylation. So because the mitochondrial DNA is encoding certain enzymes which are involved in the process of oxidative phosphorylation, okay, or for example for energy generation, therefore any kind of mutation involving the mitochondrial gene, they are primarily affecting the organs which are most dependent on oxidative phosphorylation. For example, the brain, the muscles, the cardiac muscle, the liver, kidney. Okay, so this is very important to understand. And since the mitochondria contain thousands of copies of mitochondrial DNA, the typical mutation of the mitochondrial DNA affect some but not all of these copies. Therefore, the tissues or the cell harbor both the normal, that is the wild type, as well as the mutant form of the mitochondrial DNA. And this particular concept is called as heteroplasmy. So what is very important, the question MCQ comes that heteroplasmy is a feature of, there you should be able to answer mitochondrial inheritance, okay, mitochondrial disorders. Okay, so remember this particular thing, that not all of the mitochondrial DNA will be mutated. Some of them will be mutated, some of them will be normal wild type, and both of them will coexist. This is called as heteroplasmy. One other effect is there, that also a minimum number of mutant mitochondrial DNA must be present in the cells or the tissue before the disease process is going to occur, or before the disease will manifest. Okay, this is called as the threshold effect. So again, threshold effect is a feature of mitochondrial inheritance, and the prototype disorder under this is called as Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. The most common mitochondrial inheritance disorder is the Melas syndrome. It is a short form from mitochondrial encephalopathy, lactic acidosis, and stroke-like syndrome. Okay. Now, Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, it is a prototype disorder. It is a neurodegenerative disorder associated with progressive bilateral loss of central vision, and between 15 to 35 years of age, the patient is suffering from blindness. Other examples of this disorder is NARP, that is neurologic weakness, ataxia retinitis pigmentosa syndrome, CPO, chronic progressive external ophthalmoplegia, Leigh syndrome, and Kearns-Sayre syndrome. So this is all about the second single gene disorder, that is the mitochondrial inheritance pattern. Now this is very important. A question will always come from here about the mitochondrial inheritance. Now as we see, the affected female, she is going to transfer the mitochondrial because she is affected. So all her children will be affected. Why? Because the mother is going to transmit the mutated mitochondria to all her children, because all the mitochondria is coming from the mother for all children irrespective of the sex. Similarly, the second offspring, which is the affected female, again is transmitted to all her children. So by this pattern you can be sure that this is a mitochondrial pedigree chart. Okay, let us move ahead now to the third and a very interesting, very important, little bit difficult also, the genomic imprinting. So first of all, before I start, we have to understand that what is the meaning of imprinting. Imprinting very simply means to get silenced. Okay, to get silenced. Remember, normally we are having two copies of each gene. Any gene is having two alleles. One of them is derived from the mother, and second of them is derived from the father. Both of them are homologous to each other. For example, there is one gene A. In case of one allele derived from the mother, there is another gene A derived from the father. Both of them are same. So if one of the gene is getting bad, other is working. Okay, so this is the base concept. Genomic imprinting is basically an epigenetic process which is leading to differential inactivation of either the maternal or the paternal allele. So during imprinting, what happens, that one of the alleles of the gene, it gets silenced. By which process? By epigenetic process. Okay, remember, therefore imprinting will inactivate either the paternal or the maternal allele. So when I am using the term maternal imprinting, means there is a silencing of the maternal allele. When I am saying there is a paternal imprinting, I mean there is a transcriptional silencing of the paternal allele. So just I want you to understand now what is the meaning of imprinting. Means silencing. Maternal imprinting means maternal silencing, silencing of the maternal allele. Paternal imprinting means silencing of the paternal allele. So imprinting is occurring either in the sperm or it is occurring in the ovum before the fertilization process occurs, and then it is stably transmitted to all the somatic cells. Okay, what is the mechanism of imprinting? It is epigenetic silencing via DNA methylation, histone deacetylation, histone methylation. Ultimately, because of epigenetic silencing, the DNA is not going to undergo transcription. There will be no expression. So ultimately there will be a decreased genetic expression. The total number of imprinted gene is around 200 to 600, and the two important examples of genomic imprinting is Prader-Willi syndrome and Angelman syndrome. Now I want you to concentrate very important concept. If you have to understand the meaning of imprinting, you have to be very attentive. Very easy but very confusing. So there is a mnemonic that I always follow with myself. That mnemonic is called as P for Prader-Willi syndrome, paternal deletion. P for paternal deletion. I will have to remember P for Prader-Willi syndrome, P for paternal deletion. So for example, first I am going to discuss about Prader-Willi syndrome. Okay, the basic concept of Prader-Willi syndrome. So this is the paternal allele. So there are two alleles. Okay, one is the paternal, one is the maternal allele. So in the paternal allele, we are having one active Prader-Willi gene. We are having active Prader-Willi gene. Okay, remember, we are having an active Prader-Willi gene in the father. Now because of some reason, some mechanism, there was deletion of the active paternal chromosome. So the paternal active Prader-Willi gene got deleted. Okay, this is the deleted. Whereas the corresponding normal Prader-Willi gene in the mother was imprinted. Try to understand the concept. The active Prader-Willi gene or the active gene on the father was deleted, whereas the active Prader-Willi gene on the mother got imprinted. So both the genes, both the Prader-Willi genes as in the father as well as in the mother, they got deleted. So as a result, it resulted in Prader-Willi syndrome. So it is very confusing. So as a mnemonic, remember P for Prader-Willi syndrome, P for paternal deletion. So in Prader-Willi syndrome, remember that the paternal gene is deleted, whereas the maternal gene is imprinted. So it is leading to loss of both copies of the gene, leading to complete loss of function. That is leading to Prader-Willi syndrome. I will repeat once again. Okay, in case of Prader-Willi syndrome, P for Prader-Willi, P for paternal. So the paternal gene or the paternal Prader-Willi gene is deleted, whereas the maternal gene will be opposite, will be imprinted. Imprinted means silenced, meaning is silenced. So loss of both the copies of Prader-Willi gene leading to Prader-Willi syndrome. Similarly, in case of Angelman syndrome, in the maternal gene we are having an active Angelman gene, also called as UBE3A gene. So what happens in Angelman will be opposite to Prader-Willi. Over here the Angelman gene is deleted. So deletion of the maternal chromosome, not paternal, maternal chromosome, maternal Angelman gene is deleted, whereas the paternal Angelman gene becomes inactive. Okay, becomes imprinted, or I would say they become imprinted, resulting in Angelman syndrome. So I will repeat, P for Prader-Willi syndrome, P for paternal gene deleted. In Angelman syndrome is opposite to Prader-Willi, because in case of Prader-Willi paternal is deleted. So in case of Angelman, maternal will be deleted. So if maternal is deleted means what? Paternal will be imprinted. So both genes has to get inactivated. One will get deleted, another will get imprinted. So how we remember? Prader-Willi gene, P for Prader-Willi, P for paternal deletion. So in Angelman will be maternal deletion. Okay. So let us now read about the Prader-Willi syndrome. It occurs because of paternal deletion of band Q Q12 in the long arm of chromosome 15. So there's a deletion 15q12, leaving behind only imprinted or silenced allele of the maternal side. So the set of genes in the chromosome 15q12 which is imprinted or silenced is the maternal allele, and the set of genes in the chromosome 15q12 that is deleted is the paternal allele. Both of them have to be lost. One is deleted, one is silenced, leading to Prader-Willi syndrome. Clinically, they present with mental retardation, short stature, hypotonia, profound hyperphagia, obesity, small hands and feet, and hypogonadism. They are having an increased appetite because of an increased release of ghrelin hormone. Now, what is the other mechanism of Prader-Willi syndrome? So already one mechanism of Prader-Willi syndrome we read, that was deletion, paternal deletion. Okay. The other mechanism is uniparental disomy. What is the meaning of uniparental disomy? Okay, so over here there's a complete absence of the paternal chromosome number 15. That is not there only. So what is happening? We are having two copies, okay, of the Prader-Willi gene, and both of them are present in the mother, but both the genes which are present in the mother, they are imprinted or silenced. So again there is no functional set of 15q12. Why it is called as uniparental disomy? Because both the copies are being produced from the same parent, not from either parent. So there is a complete absence of the paternal chromosome 15. So there are two maternal copies of the chromosome 15, and both the Prader-Willi genes present on both the chromosomes are imprinted or silenced. So again, there is no functional Prader-Willi gene, leading to Prader-Willi syndrome. Remember, loss of function. Now in case of Prader-Willi syndrome, there is a loss of function of the SNRP gene family, and remember the range of genes which are involved in this ranges from deletion 15q11 point till 2q13. okay, this is the range. Now we discussed about the Angelman syndrome. Very simple. The set of genes in the chromosome 15q12 region which is imprinted or silenced is the paternal allele, whereas the set of genes in the chromosome 15q12 region which is deleted is the maternal allele. Okay, they will also show mental retardation in addition to the ataxic gait, seizures, inappropriate laughter. So there is inappropriate laughter in Angelman syndrome, and this is called therefore they are called as happy puppet. The other mechanism again is uniparental disomy. There is a complete absence of the maternal allele. So there is two copies of the paternal allele which is imprinted or silenced, leading to Angelman syndrome. The genetic basis, remember the gene over here which is involved is called as ubiquitin ligase gene or UBE3A gene on chromosome 15q12 is the one which is affected in case of Angelman syndrome. So with this we have completed the genomic imprinting. Now we are going to see, if the question comes, what is the molecular basis of these two syndrome, or the molecular basis of genomic imprinting. So we have seen that most commonly there is a deletion, either paternal deletion or maternal deletion. 70% of the cases it is because of deletion. So this becomes the most common mechanism. In 20 to 25% cases there is uniparental disomy. As I already told you, both chromosomes of a pair is derived from one parent, and that particular chromosome from one parent gets imprinted or silenced. The third mechanism is defective imprinting in 1 to 4% of the cases. You don't have to go into details of this, just remember defective imprinting in 1 to 4% of the cases, and the diagnosis is made by FISH along with the methylation status of the marker genes. So with this we complete genomic imprinting, and now we will come to the last leg of today's lecture, that is gonadal mosaicism. Before I go into the theoretical part over here, first we are going to see the pedigree of gonadal mosaicism. We have to understand one thing. If you remember, in case of autosomal dominant disorders, in case of Mendelian disorders, we had discussed that in some of the autosomal dominant disorders, sometimes the parent are not affected. In that case, one of the child might be affected. Okay, one of the child might be affected. This we had read. But sometimes more than one child is affected in those cases when the parents are not affected. So this gonadal mosaicism is basically a variant of autosomal dominant disorder, and one of the best examples is osteogenesis imperfecta. So it is a variant of autosomal dominant disorder where normal parents have more than one affected child, and this is violating the laws of Mendelian inheritance. Said that okay, sometimes new mutations can occur. Sometimes the parent might not be affected and one single child, one single case might get affected. okay, but just one should get affected, okay, that is coming under autosomal dominant. But when the parents are not involved and more than one child is affected, it is a case of gonadal mosaicism, and this is clearly violating the Mendel's laws of inheritance. And such mutation, okay, it is mosaicism. Why do I say it is mosaicism? Because the mutation is occurring post zygotically and it is only affecting the cells which are going to form the gametes. So that particular individual will carry the mutation in the gamete, but all the somatic cells of that individual will be completely normal. So the individual will be phenotypically normal, only the gametes will carry the mutation. That is why it is called as gonadic mosaicism. The individual is carrying two sets of two sets of genes, or two sets of this thing is there. Gametes are carrying only the mutation, whereas all the somatic cells are normal. So they are having normal as well as abnormal population in that individual. That is why the term gonadal mosaicism. So this particular individual, whenever he produces a child, the gametes are abnormal, they are going to carry the mutation, and whenever that person is having a child, depending on how many gametes are involved, okay, the number of children might be affected will be more than one, maybe 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is the basic concept, and the diseases under this is the osteogenesis imperfecta, achondroplasia, tuberous sclerosis. So let us try to understand this pedigree. So this is a normal person. Now over here, post zygotically after this they produce children. Okay, they produced a male over here which is a gonadic mosaic. Okay, some of these cells, okay, the somatic cells in this particular individual is completely normal. That is why he is not affected, but the gametes, they are affected, they are carrying the mutation. So what happens with every child, there is a risk that he might transmit that particular gene to a child, and you will have more than one child which is affected. So this is the pedigree pattern. You will have 2 generations who are not having any particular phenotypic effect. In the 3rd generation you will see more than one child which is affected. So this is about the gonadal mosaicism. So dear students, thank you very much for watching this lecture. If you wish for having the notes in the PDF format and the MCQs related with this particular topic, okay, you can join my online pathology batch, which is held every Saturday and Sunday, and this is the time, Indian Standard Time, and it is held over the Zoom platform. Again, thank you everyone for the love and support you have shown towards this channel. You can contribute via the PayPal links given in the description box, www.paypal.me/simplypathology. And thank you very much again for watching this lecture. If you feel that this lecture has benefited you in any way, please do share with those in need. Thank you very much, guys.